Hey, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. And this morning, I'm really thrilled and pleased to have with me as my guest Win Cheva, who's a partner at M13. Win, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Richard.
So, Win, you've got a very interesting and unusual role at M13. But before we get into kind of what you do there, just kind of briefly tell me what you've done in your legal career and where you were at before this opportunity presented itself to you.
Sure. I'll do a quick rundown. You can let me know if it was too fast or too slow. I'm a transactional lawyer by trade. I started my legal career off at Latham & Watkins doing corporate law. I actually went into my legal career wanting to be a startup lawyer. I had no idea at the time what that meant. I just knew that I wanted to be in the orbit of startups and entrepreneurship. I have an engineering background, so that's probably an element there. So my private practice career was mainly based on startup company law. So I did a lot of venture deals, private company M&A, some securities work, some technology transactions work. I was fortunate enough to be able to carve out sort of a broad-based practice, but within that startup and business ecosystem. And I had a great time doing that. I ended up going in-house to Hulu when it was a lot smaller than it is today. And that's probably when I morphed from kind of your standard corporate deal junkie lawyer into a more broader base, jack of all trades, in-house lawyer. Mm-hmm. At Hulu, the general counsel at the time, Chad Ho, my boss at the time, he very much had a philosophy on, he wanted, well, certainly everyone to have a great experience, but also to have a very broad-based practice within the company as well. So he encouraged all of us, including me, to kind of stretch out of our comfort zone. So I was fortunate enough to, with a transactional background, of course, do a lot of content licensing and distribution. I'm happy to talk to you about that more, but also, for better or worse, patent prosecution, patent litigation, some employment, anything else that came through, I was able to learn and jump on, and that's where I learned sort of how to be that in-house generalist. And also learn, honestly, how to actually build, grow, and scale companies, right? After that, I was fortunate enough to leave Hulu with a group of folks that I knew and trusted to go be a general counsel in an early stage company called Vessel. That opportunity felt very rare and unique because it was a chance to go in as a lawyer at a pre-funded early stage startup, which, this probably, it doesn't come up that often. I had always said to Chad, I want to be you one day, but I don't want you to get hit by a bus, right? And so I told him, I was like, this feels like the right opportunity to go and be a general counsel. That coupled with the fact that I was going to be doing it with people who I already knew and trusted, it just felt like such a rare opportunity. So got a chance to do that. I moved up from LA to San Francisco to do that. We were at it for probably three and a half years. We were fortunate enough to sell that to Verizon. After that, I surfaced as a general counsel at a company called Masterclass. Joined there right after the Series C fundraise, which might sort of, maybe for what I do now, sound sort of late stage, but it still felt very early. So at the time, we had less than 40 or so employees. Masterclass had about, I think it was 8 or 9 classes up on the site. Today, I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I think it's probably upwards of 160, 170 classes. But yeah, really had a chance to grow and scale a team. And I think a lot of lawyers who want to go in and be in-house want to be able to grow with the company. And so a couple things that I got a chance to do there, certainly grow a team. So I was able to build a legal, business affairs, and rights and clearances team. All folks who I got to hire, and that was great. I loved working with that team. I got to help the business grow and scale. We just talked about it. We flexed up from less than 40 folks to upwards of certainly in the hundreds, probably 500 plus, kind of with flex temp employees. And also just to build and scale that business was really fun. David Rogier, the CEO at Masterclass, and the rest of the leadership team, we always encourage each other to grow and push each other out of our comfort zone. So at times, not only was I wearing the legal hat, but I again, for better or worse, oversaw HR for a little bit of time, oversaw finance, partnerships, security. I, really got a chance to stretch out of my comfort zone there as well. Again, certainly thank David for those opportunities. And that was fun, always to be learning and always to be trying something new. And so morphed into, just continue to morph into that general operator at a company.
Yeah. So how did this opportunity present itself to join a venture capital firm? Because, a lot of lawyers, that's kind of
Yeah.
rare for them to join a venture capital firm. Is that something you were looking to do next since you had been the GC of many startups, or did this opportunity kind of just present itself?
Yeah, I certainly wasn't looking to do this specifically, and very much not actively looking in venture. A friend of mine who is in venture brought the opportunity to me, and consistent with what I just said, I actually wasn't particularly interested when I first heard about it, just at a surface level, as I had been a company operator for so long that the thought of sort of switching sides, so to speak, it just felt, it just didn't seem like something I would do. The more I learned about the firm and our philosophy, the more intrigued I became, right? And so I learned that every single one of our partners is either a former startup founder or a former, senior operator at startups. And so that was really interesting and rare to me. Not a ton of folks here had this extensive investment banking background or private equity, right? We were all former startup people, former operators. It just sort of felt like my tribe in a sense. And then just from the way that the firm is built and the way we operate, I learned about our propulsion model, which is, other folks will call it some version of platform, but we have 3 times the number of operators to investors on the team. And so the idea there is we have a full bench of operators who will help our startup companies, our portfolio companies, build and scale and kind of fill in the gaps on the executive team. That felt really different to me as well. So the firm, just the approach and philosophy was very differentiated and interesting. From the role itself, similar vibe in a sense. It was an opportunity to, of course, be an in-house lawyer, general counsel. That's what I do. That I'll never stop doing that. But also the chance to sit on the investing side, meet really interesting founders who are building incredible new ideas, new companies. But also the propulsion element sounded interesting to me, which is to sit on propulsion and just wake up every day thinking, how can I help our portfolio? How can I, again, plug in the gaps there? I hadn't seen that role in venture. I'm sure there are some, but I myself hadn't seen something so broad-based, particularly for someone with a legal background. And so it just sounded so differentiated and honestly kind of weird that I wanted to explore more. And yeah.
Interesting. Well, it does sound like a differentiator. I mean, from your
Yeah.
traditional venture capitalist. Tell me a little bit more about M13. What's its, does it invest in early stage? What's its industry focus? How long has
Sure.
it been around? Give me a little bit of background about M13.
Yeah. We were formed around 2017, 2018 timeframe. We are an early stage venture capital firm. So we primarily invest at the seed and Series A levels. I would call us a general sort of software investor. So we invest in verticals like the future of work, health, money, and commerce, as well as infrastructure technologies driving those verticals. So certainly Web3 and AI as well. That's our sort of investment focus. Again, it comes back to who we are as a team and our model, which goes back to propulsion. So again, our partnership has decades of experience running, growing and scaling and exiting their own startup companies. And we've probably seen every sort of fundraise letter or, kind of economic upswing, downturn over the last 20 years. So we've seen it all and bring a lot of that experience to help our portfolio. And again, just 3 times the number of operators to every investor, right? And so we bring this deep bench to help our portfolio companies grow, hopefully quicker and hopefully with less capital.
What are some of the other operators that are involved in this, other than obviously legal, which is what you bring? What are some of the other operators?
Yeah, look, we have Matt Hoffman, who is our head of talent, who brings he and his team bring expertise in all things, whether it's hiring, talent ops, how to shape your talent org. We have we have a head of product and data. His name is Rob Smith. He, is a serial entrepreneur, built and sold a number of companies. Lizzie Francis, she has a growth and marketing background. I could go on, and I almost feel bad naming names without, giving you the whole roster. But yeah, we just have a ton of expertise in every vertical where we can plug in and help.
And do you find that this gives you, a real differentiating competitive advantage compared to other venture capital firms who are, competing for the same deal, but they don't have such a well-built out team that they can just deploy for the company? Is that your experience?
Yeah, I certainly don't want I certainly don't want to speak to other firms, but I like to think so, right? Because what we offer is certainly not just a check, but we offer a whole team of people who have been there and done this before and who can bring their expertise. And if someone doesn't need the help, we don't need to give it to them, but we are there for them as a phone call, and we'll work with folks on what KPIs, what are your next milestones, and we'll help them get there. So I certainly think so. During the investment process, we're a super collegial team, another reason why I joined as well. So our investing team and propulsion team, I'm sort of talking about them as two different things, but we're all one team, right? We work together on investments, whether it's to diligence companies or to frankly sell them as well, and explain what we do as a firm, what our philosophy is. So I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you like it so far? I mean, it's
Yeah.
different from what you've done before? Are you having fun? Is it just are you just overwhelming with the amount of stuff you have to deal with? What's it like?
Um, I love it. I think I'm a generally positive person. But yeah, like the experience is as interesting and broad-based as I thought it would be, and like it's incredibly different, right? So on any given day, again, I wear a general counsel hat, so I do all things that lawyers do. We don't have to go into this, you have a legal background, but it's what I was describing for. I get a chance to talk to entrepreneurs all day long about their new businesses and new technologies they're creating. That's fascinating. And I get a chance to sit on propulsion and work across our portfolio, work with early stage startups and leverage whatever experience I might have, and plug in those gaps and say, hey, this is how I can help you out. It's a ton of fun. Like I think being in venture, everything is just so new, right? And so if you want to be good at what you're doing, you have to understand everything new that's going on and be on the forefront of that. So it's a great challenge to myself to say, hey, whatever you've been learning or whatever you learned for the past X number of years, that's all great and all, but you also have to keep pushing yourself, and that's what I think is a ton of fun and also challenging and keeps you out of your comfort zone, which is great.
I mean, it sounds like you really fulfilled your career dream. I mean, you said you went into law school because you always wanted to work with startups. I mean, what better way to work with startups than actually being at a venture capital firm? I mean, could there be a
Yeah.
better place for that?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I certainly in my head I hadn't had it mapped out this way, and things just came. I was fortunate to have the opportunities along the way. But yeah, it's kind of a great confluence of a lot of things, and so having a ton of fun.
Well, Win, I really appreciate your taking the time to share this exciting role. It was really interesting. Congratulations on it, and thanks for taking the time to share it with me.
Thanks for having me, Richard. Nice to see you.
This is Richard Hsu and Win Cheva. Thanks.